Well, good afternoon. I'm going to start welcoming you here to Gov School on YouTube live. We'll get our classroom going here in just a minute. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm here today at Gov School to give you a demonstration on how to actually go about finding and writing your response to a request for proposal. And we'll get started here in just a minute. I'd like to give everybody just a few minutes. You should come into this room with a mute setting, and so please maintain that mute setting unless you have a question. That'll help everybody with background. And I'll continue to let everybody into this class today. We usually get started about 2 minutes after the hour, just so I can give everybody an opportunity to get in the room. This is a recorded version today. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. And you will be able to get access to the information right after this class. Take just a few more minutes. I am seeing note takers. If you have a note taker, because this is a live class, I usually do not allow them into the room, but you can get access to that information immediately after this class. Slow down just a little bit. Just give me just a few. We've got just a couple of people. So everybody should hear me okay now. If somebody just give me one thumbs up, that would be great, that you're getting access to the information and you have in front of you the Gov School. I certainly appreciate that. And then we'll get started here. Anybody want to give me that thumbs up? That'd be great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you once again. My name is Mark. I'm with Gov Directions, and here we are today. And what we're going to talk about is how to, really kind of take the mystery out of a request for proposal. And so you can actually come in and identify a bid or an RFP, and then get a quick response to it in a timely manner, not necessarily quick, but a good response in a timely manner, as long as you're prepared. And I'm going to talk to you today not only about how to make sure you're reading it correctly, the document itself, laying one out for you, but also making sure that you are organized appropriately so you can operate efficiently and respond to these calls for bids and proposals that are issued by government agencies. I certainly appreciate your attendance. We're going to be here today about 45 minutes. We'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. If you have questions as you go along, post those in the chat box. I'm doing this individually today, so I'm not going to be able to refer back to that immediately, but I'll get to them as we get going. But if you have a quick question, you can just use the raise your hand function within the tool here at Zoom, and I'll try to get that question answered at the appropriate time. This is a recorded version. We're live on YouTube, And so if you're on the YouTube channel, thank you. If you're not, go make sure you subscribe to that. You get quick access to it, and you get access to the notes, and all the information will be there after this session. We learned early on, we've been around since 1998, located here in Atlanta, that not only is it about finding the bid, but it's about learning how to win the bid. And you need some help with that. And so we pride ourselves on taking you through that journey. And we do a pretty good job at it. So if you have any questions with us, make sure you reach out to us. And we do have a little booklet that I've written about the RFP and how to read it. And I think that's really the fundamental part of making sure you have success is paying attention to what the government is asking you to do. It's not the traditional way of maybe you and I doing business together, but governments are very structured. They lay everything out for you. They tell you all the details that you need to know, and it's important that you follow along with those instructions. And you can find that book. Just give us a call for it. We have electronic copies available, as well as you can just purchase it in Amazon. And I always like to use this one slide anytime I'm talking about government procurement. If it's supposed to be hard, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. And you're here today for a reason. At 4:06 on a Wednesday hump day, it's because you're wanting to you take the mystery out of it, learn a little bit more, and perfect your skill at responding to RFPs. And I appreciate that. And this quote here is from The League of Their Own. This is a movie about softball, and we all think that's a easy sport, but to be the best, you got to really get out there and practice, and that's what you're doing when you're drafting and your responses and using the tools that are available. And I'm going to show you how to do that in somewhat of a quick way. Our purpose today is I want to give you really kind of help you identify the structure of a request for proposal to start off with, because before just like you're building a building of some sort, you want to look at the plans first, and it guides you through in a quicker way. And I'm going to walk you through every section that I think and explain the importance of those sections that you would find in a typical RFP. And in fact, I'm a big believer in experiential learning. That is, learning by doing. So I'm gonna find an actual RFP. I just went through a couple of them just a few minutes ago. Before we got on, I cheated just a little bit, but I think I got a good one. And I'm gonna it's something that's live. I learned about today. I haven't read through it yet. I'm going to show you how I do it. So I'm going to use an example to illustrate what I've just talked to you about. And then I'm going to help you determine what is next in this process. And this overall foundation, once again, the whole foundation of what I'll be discussing today is based on this pamphlet, the booklet that I've written about how to read and respond. The agenda itself I've got I was going to mention to you, we got another session coming up tomorrow, Friday morning. If you have an interest, get in touch with us. And this will be about really kind of how to go about reading and responding in a more detailed way. And it's a class that we have that's available. It's going to be about a 4-hour class on Friday. So reach out to us on that. So let me just see here. I've got jump through here. So the first thing I want to do is talk to you about contracted instruments. These are basically what are you looking at whenever you are working with a government, and what are you seeing out there in order to learn how to respond to them. And there are different instruments that governments use in order to get your attention. Now, the one we're going to talk about in just a few minutes is a request for proposal, how to do that. That's my favorite, primarily because it's the one that allows you to be more creative and how you approach things. It allows you to really shine with your subject matter expertise. But there's other ones that you'll see: a request for information or request for qualifications, source of salt, where it's so important that you have your capability statement ready to go. You're basically, governments are wanting to know if there's anybody that's interested in working with them in this marketplace. Maybe it's something specific, maybe it's something unusual, and they're trying to determine if the right match really does exist before they go out and actually pursue a bid response. And then, the more simple ones, the invitation to quote. They know exactly what they want. They want a quick response, and you just typically giving them an actual price point of some sort. And then it's almost always based on maybe almost all on price, but maybe a slightly part where it's based on your experience level, things like this, but mostly on price. An invitation to bid is a little bit more expensive in what they're looking for, but still very precise and specific. Once again, almost always built on price, in that you're coming in that you're the most cost-effective manner. And once again, this is not a recorded. I'm getting a lot of requests for this to record. There is a recording that will be allowed in YouTube Live, and you can go there, you can pull that down. And so that will get a denial in this class here. It'll be available to you afterwards. In addition, the last one, and one we want to talk about, is the request for proposal. And they're all structured. And the typical parts of a request for proposal that you will find is that, are laid out here. And while all of them can be slightly different, you will almost always find these particular parts somewhere within that document guiding it. In fact, most every document that we're actually dealing with will, even a request for information, request for source of salt, and so forth, will have these typical parts of some sort, looking for, a statement of work, and basically telling you what they're looking for. In fact, I sometimes go in there and say, the statement of work is probably the most important part. If you're reading that statement of work, it needs to really sing that song, that Coldplay song. You're the one that I wanted to find. If it doesn't, then you need to move on. Okay, and that's the most basic part. So I literally, sometimes it's on page 5, page 6, but I jump straight to it. So let's find out what the plot of the thing's about, and if it's not something I'm interested in, then I'm moving on. Okay, something that doesn't really match to me, and it's perfect for me. There's really it's close to a $7 trillion marketplace. There's a lot of activity that can match you, and you need to focus in on those. Okay, and it's important that you do that, and not waste your time on things that just really don't match you. The success level is low. You get frustrated. You're bidding on everything. It's not a wise strategy. Technical specs. This really tells you what the government's actually seeking. There, you don't have to have a perfect match. There, you can have basically the capabilities of your organization needs to somehow match that eventually. Meaning that and this is something I'll just mention as we're going along. The capability statement, a lot of people think it's kind of like a resume. It's really not a resume. It's a statement of your capabilities. What are you capable of accomplishing? Even if you're pulling from another team of individuals, even if you've served in a capacity somewhere else, what are you capable of doing? And so remember that whenever you're building it, it's not a repeat of a resume. It's a collaborative process of learning and explaining to a government what you actually are able to accomplish if you're given the chance. And so the technical specs that they have is where they're looking at really trying to make sure you're getting matched to that. And so high degree of match is preferred. That's really all you need. It can't be a perfect match to everything. You might have to reach out to another team member, build another joint venture with some other organization in order to meet all those specs. Perfectly fine. The schedule is really two sides. How are you going to respond to it? What's the timeline of the response to the RFP? And then what's the timeline of the work required? And so that's two different sides of that schedule. And you want to make sure you are familiar with both of those. And then, of course, contract terms and conditions, always important with any business venture. This is oftentimes referred to as a profit center, because if something goes wrong with the contract, boy, you can get buried. You don't want to have that happen. You need to understand it. The format of the proposal, the great thing about working with the government is that they will tell you how they're going to evaluate you. And they'll also tell you what they're looking for. So pay attention to that. They want you to be able to be compared to others in a fair way. And so they'll give you that format, and you need to follow that. Even if you have your own way of doing things, great, but don't do that. Give everything back to them in the manner that they're asking for. And then, of course, qualifications and experience. That's all I get that everybody's so nervous about all the time. Sometimes it amazes me that people get nervous about telling about their qualifications and their experience, or they don't feel like they have what's really necessary. You started your own business. You've done these things. You just need to be able to explain it. Okay. And don't shy away from this just because you haven't actually had a contract in your name or in your company's name. That's not a deal breaker. What's a deal breaker is you're not being able to explain how you're really qualified, how you are really experienced. That's a deal breaker. So start building that answer back and explaining to them. So I did 10 years of work with someone else, and as a subcontractor or as an employee of that company, that's certainly experience, and that certainly makes me qualified. I just need to be able to explain it. But pay attention to what the government is actually seeking in those qualifications and experience, and getting that information back to them. And then, of course, cost and price. Understand how to price your services. Before you even start, you really need to sit down and break that out. I always get the call. So what else do I need to do more before I start? Well, I always tell them you really just need to dive right in. But if you really want to do something, step back, cost out what you have to make in order to break even, and then cost out what you have to make in order to make money. Okay. And then you're going to stay within that range in some way. and you don't need to be going in and buying business or pricing yourself too low, or going into a situation where you can't make money. And then finally, once again, the biggie, the evaluation criteria. My goodness, governments tell you how they're going to evaluate. Pay attention. Okay. That's how to get the A. That's always so important. And make sure you do that. And one thing I always like to remind everybody is anytime you actually do see a request for proposal, it is an event that it's a solicitation. They want you to respond back to them. It's not a done deal. Okay. They went out to the marketplace. They're trying to acquire a valuable commodity or a supply, a service, an asset of some sort from you, who's the expert, and they want you to respond back to them in a business-like way, professionally done. Don't race and try to get it done in the last minute. Be prepared. Have everything organized and ready to go. And I just can't stress that enough about organization. So what I'm going to do now is kind of just dive in to the process of actually finding an RFP and then build on some of the things I've actually talked to you about. Now, at GovDirections and RFP Delivery, you choose which service you really want to work with. GovDirections, more simple, been around, the exact same website since 2006 with very little change. We got a good hit then. Unfortunately, technology has changed a lot. So in 2022, we came back with a service that's much more robust. And I like to use it because it gives you more tools, more AI tools, more ways to really pinpoint. And pinpoint is a very important part of government contracting. But if you really like that simplicity, GovDirections is a great tool as well. Here we go. If I go in, let me start at the very beginning. When you first come to our services at RFP Delivery, you are presented with our great Statue of Liberty, at the front. But a good tool to come in and allow you to very quickly go in and search a keyword for your company, a good match. And I do compensation studies for local governments. I like to stay in this when I'm explaining in class this area because I know about it. It's easy for me to explain that. Everything that I discussed today can be applied to another industry and another type of bid. And I'll try to answer some of those questions for you in just a few minutes. But going in, I do this every day. In fact, I come in about 5 o'clock every day, 4 or 5, just to see what's out there. To be honest with you, I've done about 400 projects in 34 states at this particular point in my life, and I've slowed down a lot. So I don't do this as much. But it's good to see what's out there and come out there and really see the type of business. So the last bid always presented first, highlighted with the highlighter button item. I'm not sure how they do the technically wise, but it's highlighted for you. So you can really quickly see the keyword that matches you. I always like to point out a couple of things whenever I show you this kind of a search. The first thing is we're not a speculative system. It's not like our home advisor system, that type of system where I'm looking at potentially getting a roofing replacement done. I get some bids on roofing jobs and I'll never go through with it. Here, this government on February 4th, somebody's going to win this contract. I don't know about that. They go through an elaborate decision-making process to get to this point. So I like to point that out because you're not wasting time when you see any of these and you step into it and you really look at it. The other thing is, while we like government, of course we like government, we don't work with any individual government. That's a differentiator between us and others. And the reason why is because we want to keep an arm's length relationship with them. Just like a newspaper, they can publish, and about 80% of our bids published directly by government in some capacity for you, trying to reach you, our audience, some 130,000 registered proactively companies to come here and try to find the bids in some way. So it's a ready-made universe for them. And we match you up. So our primary objective is to match. So when you see one, you pop onto it, just remember those 2 items. At this point, when you get there, that government's going to want to start working with you. We step out of the way. There's no finder's fees, things of this nature. You're going to be working directly with that government. So when you catch here, you got to start capturing some information. In fact, that's called capture management. And this way it's referred to it. So I see a bit I like, which I like this one. I like Oregon. It's a great area. It's a town. It's in the size. It's in my wheelhouse of organizations I potentially would work with. So I'm going to have all these indicators. I call them indicators of success. So that you're going to have maybe 10. I sometimes have about 15. Because I like to also work in areas I enjoy working at this point in my life. And I want to be near some good fishing. Tigard, I think that's how you said. Oregon. It's definitely Oregon. And not only that, they have good brews out there. That's a good place. So knocked off 2 birds with that's on my list right there. So it doesn't have to be those indicators. Don't always have to be precisely tied to your industry. It can also be your work-life balance. Something that makes you excited about going to and fulfilling this job, and you'll have more success with that. In finding those that are a good match to you. So I capture it. When I capture it, it goes to my pipeline or my captured bid folders, and I can pull it up as long as I like. I can keep it there, watch it. Maybe I want to watch it and see, actually wins this, and then I might approach them about being a sub, and I can do that as time goes by. But in our front system, this RFP is going to drop out, okay, on February 4th. So then I open it up, and at this point, I get information about that. I'm actually have left RFP. I'm at the city, and I need to find out exactly what they're looking for. Bid just released recently. It's due February 4th at 10 a.m. Keep up. This is the schedule. Okay. The first part of the schedule I've talked about, and some details there. And they want this electronically. I always like to, whenever I'm doing anything, I like to figure out real quickly, is it going to be electronic or paper? Now, a lot of things these days are electronic versions. And so that's important because I get a little bit more time, and that allows you some flexibility because, work expands to fill the time available for its completion. That's another slide I always pull up. And that just means that you take that time and you use it effectively in order to respond back. So if this is going to be due this afternoon, I might could just jump right on this and get them a proposal. But I don't have as much time to respond. Okay. As I step in here are the documents. Here's a response form, a plan holders list. These are always helpful. I can actually see what my competition looks like. Oh, wait, I got very little competition at this point. Only one, probably. This right here is a project center. That's somebody like RFP delivery I'm pulling down, but here's another company that bids. Okay. So that's always helpful because I'm going to want to go back and do some sort of comparative analysis of my competition before I actually submit a proposal that'll help me with my pricing. Okay. As I step into this, the response for, and then of course the contract documents open up, and here of course is my RFP. Documents readily available to you. If I was ever presented with a barrier of some sort, sometimes I have to register with a third-party provider, cute names, fires and sometimes they're called stars and planets and all these cute names. You don't ever have to pay any of them to get access to this information. Every government makes it available at no charge. Sometimes you have to register though, and just don't be fooled into thinking you have to pay as well. Okay, you getting access to it and registering, and then keeping that information so that it's there. It's not helpful. Those are definitely helpful systems because they help governments pull things to the internet, but you shouldn't have to pay for that. So when you get in here, you'll read this open. There's no pre-proposal meeting. I'm going to start watching out for the schedule of response. It's a pretty simple schedule, in fact. Okay, and I'll step through here. The first thing I want to do when I get an RFP is what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to skip through and see about the scope of work, okay, and see if it's something that is readily available for me or easy. In fact, it is page 7. It's kind of buried down there, so I can just jump ahead to page 7. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to look at that. It's really the general description part, and I want to look at it and see if it matches me. Okay, so they're looking for somebody who does classification, compensation, consulting, comprehensive view. They want job descriptions done. And goodness sake, this is exactly what I do. It is perfect for me. Okay. It's a good sized city. It's not too big for me. It's in a great part of the country. I'm just knocking off all my indicators. I'm getting close to 100, in fact, on this particular proposal. So it really makes sense. So I'm building that. So I've met that. So then I'm going to step back and say, so it does match me. I'm going to start organizing my thoughts, how I'm going to actually respond to this. Okay. So, organization is key. So we have a tool that you can actually use. You can build it yourself. We actually can build it for you if you reach out to us. There's a small charge for that, but a drive system. You can use your own systems, of course, there's out there, but this is pretty simple. If you have access to a Google Drive, they're freely available, and I tap into it. And we built these helpful learning tools and ways to organize a process, an RFP process. And so I have this system in place where I can come in the RFPs of interest that I'm working in. I build a process. Those, really there's only 5 stages of an RFP. The first stage is the pre-active or the planning stage, just like this government here They didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, we're going to do a compensation study. They probably have talked about this for a year long process, maybe even 2 years. Or they even plan this every 7 to 8 years on average. And I can track all that. And so if I can get in there early on and give them potentially some notes or some comments or some collateral about my company, that's in a stage where it's not at that cone of silence stage. The cone of silence meaning that RFP is out. I can't just call up everybody and start talking to them. I got to follow the rules very detailed, or I could be ruled non-responsive. And you don't want to have that happen, okay? Because then they don't consider you bid. So here we go, active folder. And at this point, I come in, and what I do in order to keep everything organized is I create a subfolder, and I call it, in my situation, I always call it after the agency's name and the due date. I think that due date was February 5th. It is. If it changes, I'll change it. In fact, I keep the due date front and center, and I'll change that if they extend it. I create that, and then everything I do for this government is going to go in this folder. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is download this RFP because, it could go missing. It could be a problem on the internet. You just never know. So you got to have this document in front of you. And so I download it into my download folder, and then I move it over here and store it in my main folder so I have access to it. Okay. And so organization, keeping things at your fingertips is always critical. So you're not caught off guard with any point of the actual planning writing stage, and you keep everything there for you. Okay. And not only that, but now I've got my document downloaded, and I can start using some tools that'll help me. ChatGPT, for example, which I'll do in just a second. I'll kind of show you how to expedite things. Because everything I'm doing in this process, I'm building a portfolio of information. In fact, RFP components, the ones I just showed you, the executive summaries, the qualifications, the performance requirements, the methods and deliveries, the specs, things of this nature. I keep answers to questions that I have in the past. And if I have that in a document format, then I can use that in a generative technology, GPT, to help me write and just really speed along the process and save prior responses. Now, I'm going to always review it. I don't ever just generate, just spit out a response and submit it. Just use it as an outline, just no different than you go to the grocery store and you're buying some things, and maybe you take out your calculator on your phone and start adding up, because the last thing you want to do is get up to the pay, and your money doesn't match where your cost is at. So you're using tools to be effective in how you do things. And GPT is like that. So use that to really help yourself improve. So if I step in here, frankly, what I like to do whenever I do this, because sometimes the technology is giving me a lot of different windows, things of this nature on the internet. So I usually go ahead and open it up in a PDF file. So I have it in front of me. Okay. And then I step over here and start me another folder and the RFP of interest that's going to be called in my folder. I've got the main document. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll just start a response document. Okay. And this is going to be in a Google Doc format. And I'm going to keep everything here. It's kind of like my notes to begin with. And until I decide, sometimes I may have to submit everything online and other things, but I'm still going to build it here. This is my thought process. I can also share it with others and get access to it so I can do a collaborative process internally. Or, if you need our help with it, we help with that. You can give us a call here, but I always just go in and do the title it response. And usually I go ahead and just put the RFP number or something like that in front of it and put it there. Okay. And then I start this process. The first thing I always do is I like to just put the date once again right up in front of me. And then I always write in delivery method. Okay. So I also know that. So I'm not racing to remember, because you will forget. I guarantee it. Okay. Delivery method was online. Okay. So I don't guess. And then I like to use free tools, because it's just cost effective when you're on a tight budget, especially when you first start. Okay. Build yourself a table, go in, drop yourself in the Google free tools, drop down, project status tool that they have readily available. Okay. And then I'll keep my status here. And then I'll go in and use an action item list, things I got to do. Okay. And this is going to grow as I find things. Okay. And I'll say these things as I go along. If I find any reason not to bid this, that I'm not absolutely 100% sure I can get this done, I'm going to stop at that point. and start looking for another opportunity. It's plenty of opportunity. Okay. So don't ever get yourself alone, even if it's like 10 minutes left to go, got everything done. And then if you have any doubt, step back. Okay. Don't do it. Okay. You haven't wasted any of your time to do that. That's a good business decision if you're not 100% certain. Okay. So I like to share that with you. And I have clients who do that occasionally. Okay. So we don't want to try to find that to begin with. And the way to help yourself, the first thing you want to do, the tip, is make sure you read every single thing in this document. So really what I should do tonight is go through this and read it all. Make sure I really do want to respond to it. And for this exercise here, let's pretend that I've already have done that. And then I've come back and I'm ready to really start building my response. So what I'm going to do, read through here, see if I see anything that really just kind of, it sticks out to me. For example, if there's going to be some time restrictions on the actual response questions time period. So you can ask questions, but I've got to ask my questions before, February 1st. Okay. And I'll do that. Let me just go back in. Yeah, February 4th. I've been using the wrong date. So let me get that date straight. But I'm probably going to respond to this one. Okay. And so I step into it and I've got the name and everything here. I'm going to just go ahead and copy that just so I have it right here in front of me. And then I always like to come in and do this one particular thing. Add me a different new option. I'm just going to call it information only. So I know that I don't have to do anything with this particular block. It's just there for information. And it helps me in my thinking process. Okay. There, save it. There. Go. Next. Information only. And that way, if I'm sharing with somebody, they also pick up on that. They're not looking for something they have to actually get done. And let's see here. Occasionally, these are a little bit more extensive in how they want you to submit. This here, just say a PDF document. I'm just going to add this right up here. So I know that's a PDF document requirement. Not going to want to send Word because, the first thing they want to know is I'm able to follow instructions. So if I send them a Word document or a Google Sheet or Google Doc, they're going to think that guy can't follow instructions. I'm not going to hire him. I don't want to have that happen. I want to win. Okay. This is about winning. As I step in here, okay, the basic details. Going in, I'm going to look at overview. I'm going to learn about this organization. And this is also important to pick up on things such as the number of employees. That's an indicator for me. The size of the organization as well. I even have some more. Like, for example, I actually go to their city council meetings and I see the most recent votes they have. And if they're not voting unanimously or 5-1, then I'm always I don't like to work in places that are contentious. So if there's a lot of 3-4 decisions, I'm not going to probably respond to it. So I like to check those kind of things out. Because that increases your cost. Now, occasionally I may want to respond, but I might jack up my price. Because if you go into an environment where the people really aren't getting along, it just really isn't fun. So it's not for me. So those are kind of things you need to pay attention to as you're actually deciding when to bid, when not to. So here is actually the time frame, and there doesn't look like there's actually going to be a limitation on questions and answers. But they are giving me notices about when they're going to award the contract and things of this nature, so that I can keep that timeline in my head and understand that I'm probably not going to hear on this project until probably about early or late March, early April, and maybe in February if I'm really seriously under consideration. Okay, so be aware of that. Oh, here's a requirement: font no smaller than 11 point, not exceed 15 pages. This is important. If you go in there and you miss that small thing and you give them a 12-point requirement, which is most times what I do, then you could be ruled non-responsive. You never know when this will happen. And you don't want to have that happen. You don't want to miss a contract because you failed to watch some small little item like that. Okay. And so the proposal, so you just don't want to be able to consider it. See, they won't consider it. And so you don't want to have that happen. Okay. And in this case here, all the tables and everything do not count. So you may want to remember that. So I'm copying these items so I don't mess up there. Okay. As I step into it. And this is how I'm going to protest in addenda. And we'll watch for that. There is a deadline for submitting questions. Okay. Put that in. 7 days. Proposal validity. Okay. I'm going to want to state that in my cover sheet. So we'll put that there. So they know that I paid attention to it. The term of the contract. so forth. General description, the technical requirements. Here we go. This is the format of the proposal. Basically, this is actually the specs they're asking to award this point, what they want me to accomplish. Okay, this is important when I'm actually writing my response back to them. Okay, the basic details, and I see this and I understand this. This is what I would normally see done in this business. If I saw something that is not normally done, or I have to bring in another team member, then I would mark that in such a way that I would come back and fill that in the future. Okay, and so figure out a rest. I won't leave anything here unsaid. Okay, or left to doubt. I'll give them an answer. I'm also not going to fill it with other things they're not really looking for. Okay, so but there, for example, sometimes optional here. Here, I would tell them how to do a staffing ratio study. That's something I actually do as well. So that adds to my possibility of winning this RFP. So it just continuously moves up to a high degree of response requirement for me. Okay. Here's the deliverables and schedule and when they want the work done. This is also will build into my pricing. My normal process takes about 4 months on average. If they want this done in 2 months, it's not that I can't get it done, but it increases my time requirements early on. So I have to increase my fee and I have to push things up so it can have a cost. They give me a little bit more time. I potentially even can lower my costs, or I might be able to do 2 projects at once with someone else, so I can work on the pricing. So that's something I want to pay attention to. So here we go. Here's the proposal format. Okay, the organization of the proposal. They want a transmittal page, firm qualifications, proposed cost. Okay, management. Okay, so here we go. Here, I go in. What I usually do. Okay, they want transmittal page. They want firm qualifications. They want project understanding. Okay, I'm leaving a space here. I'll explain that in just a second. Okay. Project management and proposed cost. Okay. This is the format. Okay, now this is how I'm gonna write my document. Okay, and then within this, they're going to actually tell me what they want within each part. Okay, and I'm going to come in and actually do that. And in this case here, I'm actually going to have a checkoff list for each of these items to make sure I actually did that. Okay, and in my table. Okay, so as I go through, I'm going to make sure I do each one of these items. Okay, and in the process. Okay, so what am I going to do next? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually go out below the table, and then I'm going to go ahead and start building my response. Okay, I'm going to insert a new section. I always like to start off with a new section, just to go a break. Sometimes here, in this case here, I'm actually just going to do a page break. I'm going to do my cover sheet. I'll always have a cover sheet. I'm going to do, in fact, I'm actually going to do in this case here, my transmittal letter first, which is my cover letter. Okay. Always date it, date of the actual response. Okay. And then I'm going to page break here. And in this case here, page break, cover sheet. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to go insert, break. I'm going to do section break. This is going to be my proposal. Okay. And right away, I'm going to go ahead and use the Google table of contents feature, okay, and start building myself a table of contents. I use that because it keeps it all really organized. I'm not going to cut and paste from a lot of other sources that are going to impact my formatting either. I'm always clear formatting. And that's important as you're really trying to get down to the last a part of it. Okay. And especially when you're in last minute, you don't have a lot of different formattings in here, and you'll understand what I mean if you've ever had that happen. So always clear your formatting if you're cutting and pasting from other documents that might exist. Okay. And in here, I'll go ahead and start my another break right here, page break. And I'm always going to have an executive summary first. Okay. And then I'm going to start the exact way they told me they wanted me to do it. Okay. I'm going to do project under, let's see, firm qualifications of project team. Okay. Okay. And each of these. Now, each of these here, I'm going to do just to keep it organized. my heading to for function. Okay. Now, you notice that Google has some automatic features. They put this in 16 font. You can't do 16 font. So I don't forget, I'm going to always just go back and do select all, to 11 font, regardless. Okay. Still want to keep the same heading in there. And the reason why I do the headings like that is that, I like to show myself some progress. So I come back here, use a little update, and now it got me 2 pages. I got 5 pages already. Only have a 15-page limit. Let's see how easy this is. It's not hard. Takes a little bit of practice, but not hard. Okay. And as we get in here, the next section was, let's see here, project understanding and approach. Okay. And so I'm going to build this out. And then what I'm going to stop at this point and do, and I'm going to show you how to use some other technology that really helped me out, okay, to speed myself along. And I need to, and I work on these somewhat frequently, assuming you do too in your own business. So I use technology to help that accomplish that, okay, to help make myself more efficient. So if you use ChatGPT, there's different, of course, there's different ones out there that you can actually use. New tab. But I like this one. It's simple enough to use. I go to my account here, and I use the GovDirections RFP writer. You can search and find it in ChatGPT. Okay, if you don't have quick access to it, you just go to Explore GPTs, and then you search it. It comes up as popular. 397 using it right now. Here we go, and I'm going to open it up. I already have it open here. And I'm going to say to it, let's see here, I've got some prompts, which is all about prompting. I'm going to say, well, I am responding to a new. I like to get better about talking to it. It's supposed to be a conversation. Under RP shown here. And then I'm going to drop it in. Okay. And I'm going to let the system start learning more about it. Okay. Here are my capabilities. And I might actually have other things I want to include in here. I'm just going to do something pretty simple. And that's all I'm going to say. Okay. I'm going to go. I have these documents ready to go. Okay. If I'm doing this a lot, I probably want to have another proposal that I've written recently. I might even say, here's a proposal I wrote in the last few weeks. Use this as a base. Okay. Let's go. Please prepare me a cover letter highlighting capabilities to the RFP specifications. Be detailed. Okay, so it's already outlined for me. It's going through my capability statement. It's looked at my firm qualifications. Oh, here we go. Okay, so it got me a cover letter started. Speeding around. I might actually give it some more responsibilities before I do that. But just for simplicity, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go ahead and just drop in my cover letter. Now, this probably is not going to be my final cover letter by any means. Okay. But it's a good start. Now, just some tricks. Insert my break there, page break. When I do this, I'm also going to come in and go ahead and make sure my font's correct. Notice that it's at 11 point. That's kind of unusual. It's picked up on the fact it's got to be an 11-point font. Smart. But it's got these headings already in here. And I'm going to strip that out because it's a dead giveaway that it's as some of you know that I teach class, graduate school class. I can always tell when somebody uses GPT. You got to clear out all the evidence if you want to. It could probably help you out a little bit. So make sure you do that. Clear out all the pre-formatting response and just put normal text. That helps out. Let some more folks into this room. Okay. And give me here. I also want to read through it and really make sure at the end it makes sense and there's no ghosting. That's not putting something in there about me that really isn't true. And we don't have that happen either. Okay. So I've got a really good solid cover letter. And then I potentially will ask it to come back in and say, prepare me a one-page summary of my firm's it's going to help me out. See if it does this. Okay. Here we go. And I'm not going to pick up on this for additional information each time. It's going to throw in things like that, quick summaries, things of this nature that I'm potentially not going to do this. So as you can see here, I'm going to have this done in this afternoon. And I'll have me a really good outline. Of course, I'm not going to submit that right away because I got until February 2nd. But then I'm going to go back in and really fill it in and fill in the details. So what I've tried to do here is to take a very probably complicated, this year is probably about a $100,000 transaction, and take it and put it down and take out the mystery for you, put it into a situation where you can do exactly what I did. There was nothing complicated about that. And pull together a proposal that you can submit. It's important that you come in and really fully understand how to read the actual RFP and what they're seeking, and then pull that together for assistance to get it pulled together so you can get it responded back in a timely fashion. And there was just no way I wouldn't repeat that time. So I'm going to stop there. I'm rambling a little bit at this point. And I'm also going to stop the recording at this point. So if you're on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube or come to our website and click through there on YouTube Live to watch those sessions. We certainly appreciate your use of it. So let me just do that. And I'm going to answer questions in the room, those who've come to the room today, if you do have questions. Okay. A number of you this Wednesday afternoon.